Okay, let me make sure I don't have anything. Okay. Tomorrow, I've noticed a reoccurring pattern of me losing the first trades. First, first trade has to be a winner tomorrow. So here I'm just kind of calibrating, which might sound like an excuse for poor trading, which it probably is, but that doesn't make it any less true. We break out at 23, 25, and typically notice how the inside prints are empty on the sell side, and there's a ton of buying up at 64, up at 24.50, which makes me bullish, and I tighten the stop appropriately. Typically, the past days it's done this, has done this up and then down and up and down and up and down because we're running stops. But here, sellers took control there. There's the tape, and they sold it lower. And I don't know that yet because the standard pattern in the market is the standard pattern in the market. If that's the range, price goes like this and then comes down, and without any pullbacks, immediately runs up off of stopping these people out, which is why there's nothing on the inside prints, and the queue exploded. And so that's what you're witnessing here. I go for a long there, but the general the general trend now, if we fill out a balance, it's bullish. If we come down, we're going all the way down. So I bid the edge again, looking for a breakout and scratch. And then I flip short, which is evidently the right thing to do because we're sitting below 23 as the floor. I probably should have held the short. 23 I scratched for 2 ticks. And there's sustainable sell pressure there before we come down to 22. 22 there's upticking. Now we go to 21.75 shortly. It looks like the tape has ran out. There's nothing there anymore. And then 13 trades. The Q pulls a bit. The ask pulls a bit. Then 10 and 19. Then 3, 1, and then what looks like an explosion from sellers getting out. No, the Q stacked aggressively and it looks like the ask pulled. And this is just a breakout trade here because there's a high probability of price moving up. I'm just going to watch the tape for experience sake. 22, 55 trades. We're holding 24 evens, which is bullish because we're at the highs. Then we run high of day and I get out. And then I try again because we're sustaining volume here. I'm still playing towards the breakout. Then I catch the next blip of sellers getting liquidated. So a reoccurring pattern in my trading today is me missing my exit because it's so fast. It'll move 2, 3 ticks in my favor, and I expect price to sit there a little bit, and it doesn't. So that's what happened here. I stacked twos here because I was so bullish, expecting price to do that again. And I had to scratch both for a loss. This is what I was originally talking about, how the stops are ran and then price will move in a unidirectional, will move in the opposite direction in a one-sided fashion, which is exactly what happened here. And notice how I'm trying to catch longs here, but it looks like we're going back to VPOC off of the high. And I kind of zone out here. We're back into the LVN, which would be a good place to short rather than go long because the larger narrative is bearish to the downside. It's a good short there, and we can't get above 2350. Yeah, I'd move the stop backwards. Now we're holding 2375, and they're holding 2325 as a floor for bullish buyers now. If we can get below it, I'll be interested, but so price is bouncing between 23 and 2375. I mean, there's really not a lot of volatility there, and the fact that we're building out the upper distribution, I thought we were going back to VPOC because we're thickening up on the outside. That tells me we're bullish again, and we're probably going to push high of day. So the area would be 2250 to long, which is what I do here, and I stop it around 22 evens, and we get a sound movement up to there where I close. That's a great trade right here. Is the recognition, a profile based trade, the recognition of price building out a distribution here, bidding the LVN or the end of the LVN and taking profits at the end of the distribution off of sellers trying to push price back to VPOC. And then I bid this other long as a continuation because we've consolidated between 22 and 2350 for so long. That leads me to believe that we're going to rally in one direction, and because we're at the high, I think it's further. If that makes sense. And that leads me to believe, because of how close to high of day we are, that leads me to believe we're going to charge high of day. Which doesn't happen in that jump. But I'm still holding that. 2375. This headset is causing me pain. Now we're back into the value area, and we're selling lower. Yeah. Okay, but we hold 2250s, which is bullish. We're in an LVN now, so this is a rather poor trade, just based off of the profile entry. I'm watching the tape less. I watched the tape a lot this morning, and most of my money was made by watching the back ticking. Even though I lost money today, most of the money was made by watching back ticking in the profile, but mainly back ticking, like where the floor of price was. And I think inside prints are secondary to that, unless there's real order flow. We just intermittently hold 1925 there for a second, and then sellers step in. We revisit it for a second time now, and then we rally off of it. We come back to 1925. This is 756. I don't really know where the context is for this trade, and so that makes it incorrect. And I end up losing. The bias was predominantly long. We are rejecting off of VPOC now, but I can't trade VPOC. And I notice that we're kind of magnetizing toward VPOC. And now I think I'm watching tape. 24, 31. Thickens up and they let me out. This headset. Okay. I think my head is too big for this thing. I have to review these trades even though they're so bad. Just a flip long on noise because there's no price moving forward there. And then waiting, I pull the order there. This is a low of day short, which I agree with. And I scratch because price is sitting there again. I try to short low of day again, and we finally get some action. And then price rallies in the opposite direction. Now up at the highs, that's okay to take it. It's kind of a lot to take an $80 loss. Now up at the highs, we swept the lows and then ran in the opposite direction. So that's what I'm doing here all the way back to VPOC. And I'm trying to stack the trade on top of each other, the trades on top of each other, and take advantage of the lows being ran. And I eventually get out at VPOC. That's a really good trade, and it's a sound example of progress I made in the session. Now this looks like a misreading of the floor. We come down to 1775, 18. Yeah. Same big breakout short. The jump in tape is what I'm long. That's what I presume is that we jump 3 ticks. I'm getting ready for me to scratch here. Then we jump in tape again. I really can't give this review the time it deserves, and I'm not going to review it all because between a review and screen time beats. When I get home, I'm going to do screen time. So that's the review. Frankly, it wasn't very good because there's a lot to go over that I didn't.